Welcome back to Talking Shop with Shop Saber. I'm Brandon, back with Chad and Garrett. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Doing really good.
Not bad.
Good.
What did we talk about last week? I can't remember.
I think we had Lee.
Lee
Was in the house.
Lee Roadhamel.
Mr. Brody.
Little roadie.
That's scary.
Yeah, we talked about plasma last week. That's right.
That was.
We talked a little bit about different levels of plasma and kind of the do's and don'ts, and had a good chat about that. And it made me think a little bit about this week. And I thought it'd be a good thing to talk about with the various levels of CNC routers. I think that, as you think about the plasma, I think that's just as much conversation on the router side of things. And we have a lot of people that listen that are wood shops, cabinet shops, sign shops, and I thought it'd be a good place to start.
Absolutely.
What'd you guys do this weekend first, though?
Garrett?
I didn't do nothing.
Nothing.
I got a dog now, so I just sit at home with the dog.
Sweet.
I literally didn't leave the house.
Welcome to having a kid.
Yeah, I love
That
it.
sounds terrible. I
That
went
sounds
golfing.
terrible. You went golfing. Live tour?
Golfing? Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm getting ready to sell the house, so doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Because you're going on tour.
golfing in the meantime. Yeah. Well,
You got to sell the house. You can't have a house if you're going to be on tour.
got to get the big bus to travel everywhere in.
Yeah, I don't picture your bus being that big.
Oh, it's going to be huge.
I picture it being more like the small school bus.
Not like back in school.
Not like back in school. That's funny. But yeah, no, that's cool. I went racing this weekend.
Yeah, didn't you travel?
I did. I went traveling. Went racing at a track that I don't normally race. It's pretty fun.
That must be fun.
Yeah, it was a pretty good time. You unload at a track that you don't get to race all the time, and you hope for the best. It's kind of fun because you don't have a lot of expectations because you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
When you go to a track you go to all the time, you kind of expect to like do good, and you expect that like you should have good results. Like there, you don't feel as bad when you don't do very good because you're like, I don't race here very often. So
Yeah, so you don't know where to go and where not to go.
yeah, you have to learn a lot. We won our first race out there though. We won the first one, and then we got in an accident in the second one, like first lap, bunch of cars crashing.
That's the best part of racing, though.
Yeah.
Is it
Crashing.
crashing?
Probably not for you, but
The
for
crashing
me.
part, yeah, for
that's the
most
best.
fans it is. But yeah, we got tied up in somebody else's mess and unfortunately wrecked the car. And then we spent all day Saturday fixing it, so that's always exciting. And then went back out racing on Saturday night and got a flat tire when we got to the top 5, and then had to come from the back to the front and finished 8th. So
That's
not terrible.
not
Yeah,
bad.
started 21st, finished 8th. So.
and a flat tire.
And we had a flat tire in between. Yeah, because we actually started last in that race too. So we had some bad luck at the beginning part of the night. Started us last in the big race, and
Who decides where you start?
Me, my performance, my lack of
Oh.
lack of skill.
So you were there by performance.
Yeah,
not
I
by
started.
choice,
I
or-
started 21st because my performance in the first race was lacking. Yes, and then yeah, we drove it up to the top 5 and got a flat tire, and then had to go all the way to the back again and do it again. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not. It's funny because you think about it and like. I'd be upset about an 8th place finish locally, but it goes back to my statement of like 8th. Yeah, I was okay with that.
Yeah, and you've been there now, and if you go back next year, you're
A little bit better.
yeah.
A little bit better. But it's kind of like CNC machines. There's different levels, and some of them are just a little bit better. Right?
Help.
Let's jump into that. We get a lot of questions, about CNC routers and, what's the right model for their shop. And, you get things like that. And, more importantly, I seem to feel like I hear more pushback from people when they hear they need something, and say things like, oh, well, I found this one that's $15,000 less. And you really kind of take a step back and you're like, let's discuss the different levels of CNC routers, right? Because, there's something to be said about a machine that's $15,000 less, especially when the project or the product you're looking at might only be $25,000 or it might only be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. 15 grand is a big number when you're comparing it to a $50,000 machine.
Absolutely.
It's a lot like saying a $50,000 router is the same as a $400,000 router,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like when you think of percentages, it's very similar to the same percentage. So if you're not willing to say that, like, hey, my $50,000 router is the same as a $400,000 router, then you probably need to think about the statement when you say a $15,000 less router is the same as a $50,000 router.
Exactly.
It's probably not, There's a lot of differences there. And, we don't build $400,000 routers. There's a reason why we don't. Like we specialize in companies that are looking for your traditional everyday machine. You need something you can run and depend on. It's industrial built, has good support, but it's not something that is a $500,000 machine. There are some companies out there that need a $500,000 machine. They don't need a shop saver then, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's the same to be said if you are looking at a $15,000 machine and you think you're getting all the same bells and whistles and all the same machine as a $40,000, $50,000 router. Like, you probably are looking at the wrong machine. You probably need a $50,000 machine, not a $15,000 machine.
Exactly. Looking at a lot of marketing.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And so it's something I want to talk about a little bit here, let's discuss the different levels and, try to understand a little bit better what it means and, what they are and, what you can expect to achieve, for your best success long term, when you purchase something. So, what do you guys think about this topic? Let's start there. Obviously, what's your guys' feedback? What's your thoughts? I mean, you think there's enough to talk about here?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. I think that a lot of people compare $15,000, $20,000 machines to $60,000, $70,000 machines and think they're getting similar stuff when in reality they're not.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think Garrett, you see that too occasionally. I mean, you get questions on the social media stuff about, asking questions about what's your differences between this machine and that machine, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And obviously Garrett doesn't know some of those differences, but even he jokes with us like somebody will say a topic, right? Somebody on a social media will message him, hey, what's the difference between your machine and this brand? And he obviously, out of curiosity, clicks on the link, right, Garrett?
Yeah.
And we've made some jokes sometimes that you look at and you're like, well, I think just looking at the picture, I see the differences, you sometimes can visibly see a difference between a $15,000 machine and a $50,000 machine.
That's what I was going to say. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
At the end of
And,
the
that's an easy discussion, right? Just look at the two machines. I always tell people a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you can look at the picture and see 1,000 reasons why it's different, we probably don't have to have that discussion.
Or you can only see 5 of the similar or same type of picture.
Correct, exactly. And I love the topic because I think it will help a lot of people understand what they're looking at. I also hope it helps people consider our product because, I hope that when, they get in touch with us, and they think about the machine models, they now, get a better understanding of what they're looking at. And I think it gives a brief overview of what they're best used for, intended for, right?
Yep.
And so I guess let's just jump into it, right? Different levels of CNC. Let's talk about that a second, Chad, because, obviously I expect you to probably be talkative more than Garrett on this one because, Garrett, you don't do a lot with it. But,
Probably.
You might throw some one-liner zingers in there once in a while. But, once in a while, I think it's worth us just having a true conversation about different levels of CNC and really let's just see what it is that has different, what the differences are, between the different levels, right?
Well, even here at Shop Saver, we have 4 different levels of 4x8 machines.
That's right.
So that's a good point in itself. Like one company, Shop Saver alone, has, several different machines in the same size. Mm-hmm. If they all did the same thing, why do we have different ones then? Right?
At different price points.
At different price points, exactly. Like I don't sell the same machine to do the same thing at different levels. Like there's a different product for a different need, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing with like you look at pickup trucks, right? Ford, Chevy, whoever the brand is you like they have different levels of pickup trucks too. Mm-hmm. Not every pickup truck does the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Different trim packages,
right?
Audio packages.
Yeah, and sometimes when you think about it, sometimes you need to haul something, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're buying a truck just so you can have that extra space and once in a while use it, right? But if I'm pulling my horse trailer, it's a very different truck than if I'm hauling groceries, right? Mm-hmm. I think it makes sense. So on your CNC machine, it's the same thing. If you have a 4x8 machine, it doesn't mean that it's going to do the same thing as any other 4x8 machine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could put a 4x8 piece of material on there, but it doesn't mean it's going to get the same results, same speed, same finishes. And as we jump into this, I guess let's just start off with level 1, right? What I like to call
DIY.
The DIY, exactly. As I say, the do-it-yourself. Typically, these are built by users or operators, right? I mean, those type of machines, they're typically cheaply built. I'm just going to be honest.
There's an all-wood one I've seen.
I've seen that one as well. There's CNC machines that are built on my CNC machine. They're made out of wood. You assemble them yourself. I'm not saying they don't work, but they're probably not the same quality as a $50,000 router, right?
It probably cuts material.
Yeah.
But how well, how fast.
Exactly.
Are you going to use the part when it's done?
Exactly. Some of the machines are, maybe upgraded from wood and they're, extruded aluminum kits, right? That seems to be more popular as of late. You see people with extruded aluminum machines and some require, piecing them together kind of like an erector set, right? Mm-hmm. You all remember building those puzzles as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
I bet Garrett does not remember building those as a kid. Did you ever build
What'd you call it?
an erector set?
No, that word's scary though.
That's right.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
No, it's like the old school. You remember those things,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Remember
absolutely.
playing with that? Like
Yeah.
as a kid, you made the cranes and all that. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Like that's what those machines remind me of. And, different vendors supply different parts for those machines. Many times those machines are very lightweight. I mean, if you lean on them, they might fall over. I have seen those machines. Those are generally your cheapest machines on the market. Are they a CNC machine still? Yeah. Are they really at the same level as a $50,000 router or a $100,000 router? Absolutely not. That's why you're spending thousands of dollars, instead of tens of thousands of dollars. And then you jump into the next level, which is typically hobbyist, right? So, typically, what's the difference? I guess, Chad, I'm going to let you kind of take this one. What would you consider a hobbyist machine comparably to a DIY?
They're normally built by somebody, like a manufacturer, somebody who kind of knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Versus a guy in the garage just giving it a shot.
Yeah. Generally a manufactured product.
Exactly.
Now, I think it's still safe to say that some hobbyist products still come in modules. You still put the gantry on them, or you still put the legs on them. There's still some assembly required many times in hobbyist machines.
I would agree.
That doesn't mean that doesn't mean every hobbyist machine is that way, but there's a large majority of them, I would say, still require some assembly. But I agree with you that you're not buying from multiple vendors to get your machine together. Generally, you're buying the kit. It comes from one person. You get it all. You just have to assemble certain stages of it. And then, you generally, with the hobbyist, you get some sort of technical support, right? I mean, forums, something.
Yeah, there's something there.
I mean, that's how I would classify a hobbyist. Is like you generally get something. Like with a DIY,
manual?
yeah, like a DIY, you're kind of on your own. Figure it out, do it
Yeah, I
yourself.
suppose, yeah.
With like hobbyists, at least like the company has something. They have a forum many times or email communication, something. I mean, it's not going to be like a tech that travels out there, but you have a website or an online forum, as you mentioned, or whatever. You don't run these machines many times more than a few hours a week, right? I mean, they're generally low usage, low demand type products. And then you step up from that into more of a, you have DIY, hobbyist, and then there's actually a level I still consider above that, but below like a professional machine, and I would call it recreational. To me, recreational is kind of where Shop Saver starts, to be honest with you. We don't really build anything below recreational. And in fact, our RC model stands for recreational craft. So I would consider that to be kind of where we start things is, these are generally a step up from a hobbyist machine. Many people who have them are hobbyists in their shops, right? Or they're, going to be starting they're more of a enthusiast that's starting a business, right?
Correct.
But they're able to withstand longer durations. That's the advantage to a recreational machine is they can run them daily. Many times these people run them all day long. You can do it. Usually these machines are not the most advanced technology out there. As an example, RRC uses rack and pinion instead of ball screw. Ball screw is a more advanced technology than rack and pinion. That's the reason why our recreational machine has the rack and pinion. It is more cost effective for us to build a machine that way, which keeps the price down for, somebody who's getting into it. Now, that machine can be bought in a 4x8, correct?
Correct.
That's one of those statements that you made. Like, just because we have a 4x8 in that size, as well as our IS and our, Pro or whatever, you have to start looking at, there's differences in technologies from one 4x8 to the other. And that's a glaring difference, right?
Well, and that's one thing back to, was it 2 episodes ago, stepper versus servo?
Yeah.
Our recreational machine is servo driven versus many of them being stepper driven.
And and I think that's a good point there is because, there's some upgrades that even our recreational machine has that other recreational machines just don't have. And you start looking at a lot of recreational machines still have aluminum gantries and aluminum pieces to them where we're all steel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and that could be why maybe our machine costs a little bit more than
Correct.
another one.
You're getting what you pay for, right? I mean, a servo motor is going to cost you more than a stepper motor. So just because they're both recreational machines, that one, just because it's $2,000 cheaper, isn't the same machine.
Exactly.
It kind of gets back to that statement of, well, I mean, their machine's $2,000 cheaper than you. That's it? Like, you should ask them for a discount. Like, because it
I'm
should be less.
surprised we're that close.
Yeah, that's what I honestly like. Wish I'd say it more to people, but it does. It shocks me when people are like, huh, they're $2,500 less than you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using it like, can you believe that you're that much higher than them? And I'm thinking, like, as soon as they say it, like, I can't believe I'm that close to them. Like, I thought they'd be way cheaper than that. You know, like there's really a whole lot of professionalism behind our machines that I think gets missed. You know, and usually these machines, you know, for me are more advanced technology, makes them more professional.
And that's why in the recreational department, I think there's more of the you get what you pay for, and then you get really into the technological differences.
Yeah, I think so too. I think really until you get to recreational, there's not as much discussion to be had, right?
Exactly. You know exactly kind of what you're getting.
Correct. Yeah, it's like kind of a kit. This is what you get. This is what you get. You know, there's not a lot of options to choose from. Once you get to that recreational level, you start to have more things to choose from. And, you know, it's more of a semi-professional machine, right? A semi-professional environment, but at a more cost-effective solution. So that takes me to my next category, which I would say is the true semi-professional machines. You know, they are a step up from recreational. These machines are generally heavier than recreational machines. You know, you're generally steel frames, you know, steel gantries. You don't see a lot of aluminum in these level machines. Not a lot of, you know, extruded machines. They're generally, these come with more technology. You know, like you said, servo motors are pretty standard in a semi-professional machine. You don't usually see steppers on a semi-professional or higher machine. They're always going to be generally backed with some sort of support from a professional firm. Somebody there is going to be there to assist you, whether it's, you know, email support, whether it's phone support. They got something, and whether it's a year or 90 days or whatever, they have something to get you to that point of get going, right? And many times these are machines that you would see in a new shop. I would consider a semi-professional machine as something you see in a lot of startup shops, you know, and really for me, our RC kind of falls into this category more than recreational nowadays. The market has developed a lot over the years. When the RC was developed, there wasn't this semi-professional market. It was really you buy a recreational machine or you buy a full pro machine, right? A professional machine. The market is kind of like tailored over the years, and this kind of hybrid machine has kind of come out. And it's a lot of people, you know, it's kind of like when you look at cars, right? They used to have full electric, or I mean, you had really, full, you know, fuel cars, and then you had this hybrid mode.
Yep.
But now you have truly like electric cars, and now you have electric hybrid, then, you know, gas engine cars. And I think that's where this comes in, is like we really used to have the hybrid machine, which was recreational, and then the professional. Well, now they've developed that whole level below it, so it's kind of shifted where the market of a lot of machines fall into.
Yep.
And obviously, naturally, companies are going to advertise how they always advertised, right? So a lot of companies still advertise their machines as like a semi-professional machine, or, you know, these industrial level machines. But really, as you break them down, they don't match up to the machines that fall into that category nowadays. And obviously, from a marketing perspective, that's what we talked about. You kind of get what you pay for. And marketing's job is to get you to think you're getting something you're not for $15,000 less, right? Mm-hmm. You're just not, though. And when you start breaking it down, you know, many times these machines, you know, like I said, they're in new shops, but someone, you know, who doesn't depend on them every single day is usually running them. It's usually a shop where if it runs, you know, a full day and then takes 4 days off, it's not the end of the world. That's where you see a lot of those shops. Now, that doesn't mean that those shops still shouldn't buy a better machine or a bigger machine for growth purposes, but it does mean that a lot of times you're not going to see semi-professional machines being pushed every day, all day long. That's where you start to step up into that more professional level. And to me, that's the next level, is these are the most popular level machines that business owners own. You know, these are products that are generally going to have more advanced technologies, upgraded build qualities. You know, generally, as we mentioned, they're going to be a heavier duty frame. They're steel gantries. Their uprights are a lot of times steel. A lot of times these machines have, you know, larger tubes. It's not as small of, you know, it's not sheet metal. It's not stuff like that. In most cases, they're a higher level of intelligence installed on the machine. And what I mean by that is, you know, upgraded motors, sensors, the controller, things like that are all more advanced than what you typically would see in more of your recreational or, you know, semi-professional machine. And so, you know, as you start getting into that, you have to start thinking about things like vacuum hold down, auto tool changers, dust collection ready, things like that. These products are designed to be depended on daily for profit. Many times people run them multiple shifts a day. You know, many times they're running them 5 to 7 days a week, right? Mm-hmm. That's where that professional level comes from. Would you agree with that, Chad?
I agree.
So what would you consider for us our professional level machines? Where would you look at a professional level shop saver?
The Pro Series.
Yeah, the Pro Series. And that's where it comes from. Pro is professional. And obviously that gives you that, or production, a lot of people call it.
I thought it was production.
Yep, the production. But it's essentially that level. It's production series, professional level machine. That's what the Pro is. And then you kind of step up from that. And that's where you get into that commercial or industrial level machine. And people a lot of times advertise, this is a very common difference. People will advertise professional machines or pro level machines in a commercial industrial category. And it's really not, because you have to start breaking the machines down. And a lot of times commercial industrial machines are high production, generally where speed and performance must be met at a higher level. You have to meet speed with performance. And, a lot of times this level of machine has bells and whistles like auto tool changers, vacuum hold down, sheet alignment, dust extraction. And a lot of times, other upgrades like tooling lubrication are available on this, where you have a mister or, something like that for cutting aluminums, or you have remote diagnostic capabilities where people can log into these machines remotely and help you. A lot of times with these, they're a production line design machine, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're going to run these things and they're going to be more complete, and you're going to complete more product in less time. And multiple people will advertise these machines to be something they really aren't. And that's what I always try to tell people, is that you have to be careful, because a lot of times you see machines that advertise speeds that are rapid speeds. But when you actually start to look at their cut speeds, they drastically fall off. Those aren't typically commercial grade machines. When the machine can't cut at its higher speeds, a lot of times you're seeing the difference in a professional level to a commercial grade machine, right? Mm-hmm. If your machine's advertised to cut 2,000 inches a minute, but you can only cut at 1,000 inches a minute, it's probably not in that commercial grade machine. That doesn't mean it's a bad machine. It just means there's some differences that is slowing that machine's performance. Whether it's a lighter weight frame, smaller motors, something's going on that's causing that machine to have to slow down under load.
Does the rapid mean like the moving speed while it's not cutting?
Yeah, like when it's in the air, when you're
jogging
having your underground racing world of CNC machines.
Oh, okay.
I kind of joke about that, because like a lot of sales guys, they advertise that, and they're like, oh yeah, our machine goes 3,600 inches a minute. But then their cut speed's like 800 inches a minute. And I'm like, unless you are literally in an underground world of machine racing, I do not see where 3,600 inches a minute is going to save you any time or make you any more money. Because you might save 30 seconds a sheet, because the majority of your cutting is slower. Right? Like, it's one thing you have to think about, as you get into that commercial grade level, and that's our IS series is what I consider that. Yep. Heavier frames. The frames are massive on those machines. The speeds are over 2,000 inches a minute on that, and they can cut at those speeds. The gantry clearance is higher. The tubes for the gantry are heavier. Like, there's things we do to the IS that give it its capability. I mean, the motors on it are significantly bigger than the professional level, right? Yep. It's because it's higher torque, higher performance. People who are running the IS table want to get things done as quickly as they can without losing performance. That's what it's designed for. I mean, really, most IS machines, your limitation is holding the parts in place and the tooling. It's not the machine itself. Many times it's the actual material. Material can't really be cut with accuracy at those speeds that you want to, That's people's limitations then. And then, of course, you have the ISM, which is a little bit faster, which I still kind of fall into this category a little bit. It's still an industrial level machine. It's just a faster version of that, and then the only category I would consider above and beyond these machines would be really a full automation series. And many times those are generally your higher production plants running these things 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 2 to 3 shifts a day, whatever it is. These systems replace people is what they are. These are the systems that have loading and unloading, and they take up a lot of room. Generally, they require a full-time maintenance person on staff, because those loaders and unloaders are high maintenance, and generally you have to keep that in mind. You have to be able to have somebody who can operate and calibrate the machine to make sure it stays to its full accuracy levels. These are not as common machines that you find in small shops. You see a lot of import companies try to advertise these machines to small shops, because they get them on that wow factor of that loading and unloading, right? Yep. But the people who are buying these machines need to be aware that like loaders and unloaders don't make you a faster production shop. A lot of times loaders and unloaders actually slow you down. But it's because the advantage to a loader unloader is that you remove people. You don't have to, a lot of times in these professional environments, they have shift managers. The machine's running all day, every day. So each shift manager is just responsible for getting so much material out. So they're loading it and it never stops. Small shops don't have that demand. So these machines don't get run like that. And it actually is harder on the machine because then things don't last like they're supposed to because you're not constantly utilizing them. So your loaders and unloaders have to be aligned and things are happening. And especially when you have, low demand, it's not saving you a ton of time. It's actually costing you more because now you've taken up a crap ton of space in your shop and you're still cutting the same amount of sheets that you were cutting if you had a next level down, but you spent more money to do it. So you have to be careful on that. These are designed for major manufacturing. Like they're companies that run nonstop. If you're cutting 70 sheets a week, a loader unloader, while it might save you, you might think it's the greatest thing ever. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to make you more profitable. I'm pretty confident when I say that. Like I've time tested these machines, I've done them. It's something that actually we have a lot of experience in, and I can tell you for a fact, go to a lot of the shows and I encourage you if you could get into the show before the show starts and watch these guys try to set these loaders unloaders up and the maintenance that goes through them. No thanks.
Sounds expensive.
I've seen many competitors drop many sheets on their machine because their loader unloader fails on them.
I'd rather go to a demo days.
Demo days, those are my favorite. We're gonna do another one of those soon.
I was about to say it's been a while.
Yeah, we're gonna do one of those soon. Good call on that one, Garrett.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you
But-
hit a button for me, like applause or something?
I can do this one for you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Demo days, and
Appreciate that.
everybody likes demo days.
I don't think we've hit the Shop Saver button.
What button?
Shopsaver.com.
That one? Yeah, I was on a roll there, guys. I wanted to talk about all the excitement that we had in this topic, and I just got on a roll. So I'm glad we got to hit some of those fun buttons. But okay, we talked about the levels, right? There's a little bit about the levels, kind of tells you where you need to know. But, what other things, really come to mind when you start thinking about the different levels of machines, Chad? Nothing. Nothing else comes to mind for Chad at all. Literally nothing. I'll just sit here.
Can you rephrase the question?
I'm just curious. These crickets will not stop. Okay, there they go. I'm just curious when you think about all the different levels of machines, right? We were talking about it, like the pro machines and the commercial machines and the automated. Like, there's a lot of machines that you see in those different levels, right? And there's various stages of machines. But what's something that also comes along the lines of whenever you have different levels of machines?
The knockoff machines?
Yeah, the knockoff machines. I'm glad we got there. I'm super glad we got there. Let's just take a moment.
And just think about that. I had lunch.
You had lunch today. Unbelievable.
I wasn't even hangry.
They weren't even hangry at us. But no, many times, you have to think about that though. Let's touch on the knockoff machines. Many times with these level machines, you see companies trying to mislead consumers to believe they're a different level. And that's what I was trying to get us to there. But Chad took it the long way to get there. But, wait a second. You said you had lunch today.
I did.
How about a beer?
Maybe that's what was happening. But
Did you say
no.
beer?
What?
Did you say beer?
I'll just have 4 to 5 beers to stop the shaking, and then I'll go outside.
And Garrett just ran out of the office.
All right,
Literally,
see you guys.
he ran out of the office. Yeah, no, but you have to think about those different levels, and like you said, the knockoff machines, and this is common in import machines, right?
I was about to say, aren't those imported, like coming from overseas?
Yeah, many times they are though. Yeah, that's the thing is generally import products fall into that recreational or semi-professional category based on technology. That doesn't mean they sell them at those prices. Mm-hmm. You find a lot of import machines that sell for the price of an industrial machine or a professional machine, but people really believe that they're getting a professional or industrial level machine because they use buzzwords and they use statements that make people believe they're the same. And I think that's the number one thing we run into is people who are buying these machines out of other countries and they say, well, we found so-and-so's machine and it's $15,000 cheaper than yours. Like, okay, have you looked at what they quoted you? Well, yeah, it's got a vacuum, it's got tool changer, it's all the same stuff you have. But then you start looking at it, it's a different tool changer brand. Mm-hmm. It's a lower duty cycle. The vacuum pump can barely hold down anything.
200 CFM and
Yeah.
5 inches of pressure.
Correct, yeah. I mean, like, you're using hopes and dreams to hold on to that thing, Like, don't let it move, otherwise it's going to hit you right in the nads.
No.
But
It's going to vacuum hold down material like the machine's going to perform like a higher level.
yeah, exactly. It's just, you have to start thinking about that. Like, the biggest way to spot imposters is look at some items on the machine, What technology are they using for the drive system, for one, right? Mm-hmm. Compare it to the class below it. I always tell people to do that. Start looking at machines below it, and are they using the same components? And then what motor technology are they using? Is it servos or is it steppers? Because rarely are professional or higher level machines going to be anything less than a servo motor, right? And then you start looking at how is the machine constructed. Most professional machines use steel, right? Steel frames. You know, really, when you start breaking down the gantries,
Yep.
they're steel, right? You know, a lot of times aluminum construction is not common at this level. So if the machine has an aluminum gantry, take a look at what you're considering. And then, you know, the other thing I think about is, do you have to upgrade to servos?
I didn't think about that.
Like,
Yep.
if they're making you pay for servo, it's not really a professional machine. No professional machine is going to say, well, let's sell it with the steppers and then we'll make them buy the servo. Like, they'll just put it in the price and make it a professional level machine. Like, if you have to upgrade and buy those things, it wasn't thought out that way. It was designed to be a cheaper machine. And that's something to think about. You know, did it come assembled? Do you have to put it together? Because if you're having to put the machine together, what professional product out there? I mean, do you buy cars and then have to put them together?
I always think about how precise is it going to be after you get it together.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Like, if you're putting it together in your shop, that tells you a lot about the precision of the machine. Because I can tell you right now, not a lot of people in their shop have the tools necessary to get within the accuracy level that most people want you to be at.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you start to look at that and you go, if you're putting it together, it's probably a lower tolerance machine. Where with, professional grade machines, they're milled, aerospace milled. Well, if they're aerospace milled, that means they're holding tolerances that you don't have the tools in your garage to put together, right?
Yep.
So the frame should be all one assembly at that point.
You're almost guaranteed to lose a screw too. You ain't gonna find that screw.
Loose screws are the worst.
Or what about making sure the spindle's square?
Yep.
That
You have to
seems
think
to
about
be
that.
a problem.
Well, that's exactly it. You don't. I mean, how are you squaring it?
I see the guys out there do it, and they have that big block or
Granite
whatever,
block, yep.
man,
And they're using all the tools they have and the dial indicators. And they have everything on place to make sure that spindle is straight. And then you got guys who are just, I'm just going to bolt one on. Right?
Other weaknesses, we're slow learners, and we're not particularly good listeners.
Like,
definitely a slow learner.
definitely a slow learner there. But does it have an auto tool changer even as an option? Like, I've seen a lot of people who claim these, like, cabinet shops. There's a machine out there, and I don't use names on this show. I don't ever go after the competitors. But I will say there's a machine out there that I've run into multiple times from cabinet shops who are like, they said I don't need a tool changer. Run away. Just hang the phone up and never call them back. Because no company should tell somebody who's in the cabinet making they don't need a tool changer. Like, it is money well spent for your cabinet shop.
It's one of the 3 must-haves.
I couldn't imagine running a cabinet shop without a tool changer. And I can't imagine many shops saying they would do it.
I don't think I'd want to sell the machine, so support had to support it.
Yeah, correct. That's what I was thinking. Like, God, those poor support guys. It won't even qualify for a professional grade machine or higher if it doesn't have a tool changer option. Like, you need that. Like, you think about a typical cabinet set. If you got a dado, you got to cut your shelving holes, and then you got to cut the part out. That's 3 different tools right there. You're going to sit there and babysit the machine the whole time? Why'd you buy the machine then? Like, I want to be able to hit run, let the machine cut the whole cabinet out, and then 7 minutes later, or 6 minutes later, or if you buy an IS table, under 5 minutes later, you end up with a cabinet.
Yep.
I don't want to sit there for 45 minutes waiting on a machine. Like, I might as well just pay a guy to do it at that point.
Keep doing it by hand.
Correct. And then the last question I always ask is, who's going to support it? Where was it built? If the person building it isn't supporting it, you're buying a marked up product. Remember that. You are buying a product built by somebody else but sold by another person. That person in the middle is making money. You're spending money out of that cost. So let's say you buy a $20,000 machine from me, or you buy a $20,000 machine from Jake's CNC factory, right? And if you buy that same machine from the both of us, well, I built the machine in-house. There's no middleman. I didn't import it, right? It didn't come from overseas, so you didn't pay any shipping overseas for it. But if Jake bought his machines out of wherever, his machine has shipping costs alone to get to him, plus the company that sold it to Jake made profit, and now Jake's making profit to you. Mm-hmm. Yet we're both $20,000. Where'd that money go? At some point, Jake made money on you. It means you paid for something you didn't make any money on. I've sold you product that has a higher quality for the same price at that point. So sometimes when you look at a machine at 25,000 versus 20,000, you have to start thinking about some of that stuff. Like my machine's 25,000 because it's better quality and I have everything done here and I'm doing everything that I need to do, but I'm upgrading the machine. That $20,000 machine is not really even a $20,000 machine. It's a $15,000 machine that Jake marked up to $20,000 so he could cover his expenses to get you closer to my price. So really, you're really getting a $15,000 machine for 20 grand. So yeah, you're saving $5,000 on me, but you're spending $5,000 more with them. Like you didn't save money. You spent more.
How about the companies that say they're American made, but then there's kind of a little interesting lie behind that?
I see your lips moving, but I can't make out the words. I'm deaf.
That's kind of what they say, don't they? Well, are you really American made? And they just run around that, right? Go see the machine being built. I encourage anybody buying a CNC machine, go see the factory.
Or even like a video call if you're not near them.
Go see it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I am fully on that. Exactly. I don't care how you do it, but like we do it all the time, right, Chad?
Oh, yeah.
We will literally walk people around the building. We will do video calls. We will, whatever people want to see. Like they can come see the facility. They can do a video with us. Like we'll show you where we build these machines. We're proud of it.
We enjoy it.
Yeah, because you're going to see things here that when you see our competition, you're going to go, yeah, they don't really build them in-house. Because if you build it in-house, you have to own certain equipment that we have, that we're proud of.
Like all those mills.
Yeah. So let's talk about Shop Saver for a second, right? If we're going to talk about Shop Saver here, let's start off with the different levels of machines that we have, okay? ShopSaver.com. So level 1, Chad, where do you start?
The Shop Saver 23.
23. So what category does that fall under?
That would be recreational.
And that is a steel gantry and frame.
Yep.
Obviously, there's some aluminum in different motor mounts, uprights, things like that. But let's explain the market for the 23 real quick. The market for the 23 is your guy in his home garage, right?
Yep.
School,
Robotics team.
robotics teams, a lot of
That's
robotics
very,
teams.
very
Huge.
popular.
Yep. R&D, right?
Yep.
Companies who are using it for R&D efforts.
Yep.
It's generally going to be in a garage of people who have typically higher quality tooling, right?
Yep.
It's generally a guy who's looking to build a more advanced wood shop, right?
Yep.
It's not your entry-level machine. I will say that flat out. It's built to last. You can run it all day if you wanted to.
Yep.
In many cases, it does accuracy to levels that nothing else in its category really touches because of the aerospace milled frame. I mean, it's aerospace milled. Think about that. Our cheapest, smallest machine is still milled on a $1.8 million mill.
It's incredible.
Isn't that crazy? Think about that for a second. So then, let's talk about the features. That machine is ball screw driven, correct? And that machine is driven with a high production micro stepper motor, right?
Correct.
And it has steel gantry, steel frame.
Yep.
Okay, now let's step up. I need something bigger than that because that's a 2 foot by 3 foot working area. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah. 30 by 40.
Yep. So 30 inches by 40 inches. Now we need something a little bigger.
That'd be the RC.
RC model.
Yep.
Recreational craft, right?
Exactly.
But we consider our recreational craft machine to be more of a
Semi-professional.
Yeah, semi-professional.
Now.
Yeah, because obviously, again, it's got a steel gantry, steel frame, steel uprights. That one is actually full servo driven. That's what makes it step up to that next level because it's not truly recreational because it does not have steppers on that machine. That is a servo driven machine out of the factory.
Correct.
No optional upgrade. It's just that's the way it comes.
No belt reduction.
No belt reduction. It's just that's what it is. And then let's talk about that for a second. It's 4x8 or 4x4.
Correct.
That one has the ability, has a little higher gantry clearance on that one.
Correct.
That one has the ability to run in a professional environment if you needed it to. Cabinet shops could use that machine. Sign makers use that machine. You see that typically in a entry level.
Entry level.
Yeah, entry level business, right? First
Correct.
introduction to CNC. You see that in a lot of schools, educational.
School settings.
Yep. Guys who want, schools who they need a 4x8 machine, but they don't have the endless budget, right?
Yep.
I say R&D once in a while with that one too, I'd say.
Yeah.
Pretty, basically an R&D, a lot of people who buy the 23 buy the RC when they need a bigger machine than what the 23 can handle. Then we jump up to the Pro Series. The Pro model is a professional steel gantry machine, right? Professional level, steel gantry, steel frame, larger tube. So rather than the RC where it uses a suspended frame machine, meaning the weight is carried in the air on a frame with legs, the Pro brings you to a stacked steel or a ladder frame, right?
Yep.
Stack everything together. It brings the weight to the floor, gives you more rigidity. Larger frame, larger gantry, more clearance again, more speed. This is a full ball screwdriver machine, correct?
Correct.
And these are available in 4x4.
4x8.
Yep.
5x10.
5x10. There we go. So 4x4, 4x8, 5x10. And then I think Garrett just told me to steal second base. I'm not sure.
Third base.
I thought he was over there throwing up gang signs.
I did too. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, an idea. Okay. So then the next level, the IS model. The IS model falls into that industrial level machine, right? Commercial
Correct.
industrial. Again, steel gantry, steel frame. None of that has changed. But now we're talking about a heavier frame versus the Pro. If you compare them side by side, it's larger tubes, bigger machine, heavier machine, faster machine, bigger servos. Everything about the IS machine is built for speed.
Correct.
Heavy, fast, massive machine. Who's the people that use the IS table?
People who already have CNC machines or need higher production.
Yeah, I would agree with that. People who are upgrading a past machine, they're buying their second machine the second time. But it is also the guys who are pushing the limits, right? And some people who don't have CNC machines just start with the IS because they're like, hey, I don't want to buy my second machine second. I'm going to go right into it. I know I don't need it now. It's overkill, but I don't want to outgrow my machine. That's where you see a lot of guys looking at the IS. Is I don't want to outgrow it. And many times people who buy an IS table, a large majority of those people never outgrow that machine. That machine will last them as long as they need.
Correct. They're already established.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is those machines generally are pushed in a lot of professional environments. You know, you see it in your cabinetry shops. You see it in your aluminum, manufacturing shops. You see it sign shops. A lot of industries, solid surface manufacturing, aerospace. A lot of things where that machine is pushed to its limits, right? Then you have the ISM. The ISM is the IS, but with a Mitsubishi controller. So it is a heavier, faster version of the IS. So let's call it, another step up, right? You have the Pro, then you step up to the IS, then you step up to the ISM. They all use ball screw machine. They're an all ball screw driven machine, all three of them. They're just different levels of speed at that point. And with speed comes weight. The Pro, good, better, best, right? Pro is really good. The IS is better, and the ISM's the best, right? I mean, you got frame quality increases, right? You end up with heavier tubes, larger machines. Generally, all three of them, you step up in speed, production. But the nice thing about them is they're all very, very accurate because they all use ball screws. So the ISM, the advantage to it is it has a closed loop controller on it. So you end up with the Mitsubishi M series controller, which is generally found on a lot of milling centers. It's a very, very accurate controller. Many times it's popular with high accuracy applications. You don't see it with the cabinet shops a lot of times. It's like aerospace shops, people who are dealing with a lot of aluminums and, dealing with a lot of mold making and things where like the accuracy is just super critical. That's where you start to see a lot of the ISM. The ISM also takes a higher level operator, correct?
Correct.
I mean, it's some training that's required there because you have an actual operating system that's a mill-style controller. Now, ShopSaber has simplified that and made it a lot more point-and-click technology, but it still is a mill-style controller versus any level below that at that point has a lot easier learning curve, right? There's a lot less demand on them. You can generally, your traditional shops are generally, I say ISMs are going to be in shops that are multiple shifts a day, many days a week, right?
Correct.
The IS and below is typically one shift a day type shops. You might run them for 14 hours because your shift's long, but it's generally, you're not seeing a lot of people pushing the IS 3 shifts a day, 5 days a week, every day. It might be some weeks you do that, but some weeks you might not. Now, that doesn't to say we don't have them out there. I know for a fact we have some very big manufacturers that run multiple IS tables versus buying one ISM. It makes sense. Some people just buy smaller machines rather than bigger machines. So again, features and benefits. The ISM comes in what? 4x8, 5x10, 6x12. So same sizes in the IS and the ISM. So, again, that's where you see that. So, hopefully today's episode kind of shows you where the different categories fall into. Hopefully today's episode kind of helps you realize that, be careful what you buy out there. A $15,000 machine is not the same as a $50,000 machine. Just because they say it's the same, you're talking to a sales guy a lot of times. Ask the questions. And a lot of companies like ourselves are willing to have those conversations with you.
We want you to know.
Exactly. We would rather tell you the differences. We have nothing to hide there with that because, again, we have different levels of machines, right? So we can tell you flat out that like, if you're looking at that level of product, look at this of our model. You know, like that's the thing that I think that you get out of companies like ShopSaver, because again, Chad, you're not commission paid.
Correct.
So being that you're not motivated by selling you the most expensive machine out there, you try to learn more about the application. And then therefore, if you say, hey, I'm looking at so-and-so's machine, we can say, okay, here's some facts about that machine, here, here, and here, but here's the differences in what I quoted you, here, here, and here. But if you want something at that level, let's look at the RC model. It's going to have all the same features in these areas, but here's what you're giving up. You know, and we can at least show you that stuff, where a lot of companies, they don't have those different levels. It's just what did they get from the factory that they bought them out of? That's the model they have, and these are the options you have on it.
Yep.
With us, we have a lot more customization capabilities. We can sell you the right product for your need. It might mean we have to go to a different level to get certain options or features, but at least we have that available to you, and we can show you why it might be beneficial to you. Or sometimes we're just really bad sales guys, and we tell you like, hey, you don't need that feature, even though they're selling it to you. Like, let's look at this model and save you a bunch of money.
Exactly.
Because I've done that many times in my career, where I've told people, I'll spend your money if you want me to. I enjoy it. Like, I'll help you. I like spending other people's money, not my own. But here's why you shouldn't. Buy this model instead. Save money. Take your family out to a nice dinner. Take me out to dinner. Like, I'd be cool with it. I like food.
Yep.
But don't just spend money to spend money. Like, sometimes spending money is you're wasting it because you're not gaining anything. But sometimes saving money is going to cost you a lot more money in the long run.
Do
right?
the research.
Do the research. And then make lots of money because you got an awesome machine.
That's the goal.
That's a good idea. So if you want to learn more about this, go to shopsaver.com. I really failed on that timing of that button. I was trying to make it more seamless there, but it didn't work. So, each machine you look at falls into a class. Don't, be fooled by sales reps or advertising. Ask for a comparison. If you can't get a formal comparison, it's likely they don't have much to share with you. I'm just going to be honest with you. Or many times they don't have many advantages, so they don't want to get into that back and forth. A good sales rep should be able to explain which levels of machines you require and give you a reason why they recommended the product. So think about that. Reach out to Chad.
Absolutely.
Chad, you'll help them, right?
Absolutely.
We have a few other people in the sales department that will also help you. But it really just comes down to what you need and why you need it. Because everybody's needs are different.
I agree.
Are your needs different, Garrett?
It depends on what need we're talking about.
CNC needs, obviously.
My CNC needs. I'll take 223s.
223s for Garrett?
For how much?
Well, I'd make it a 46, so whatever a 46 costs.
Yeah, you want a 46? Shops there 46. Got it.
I
It's
want
a
dual
hybrid
wield.
plasma
I want dual wheel.
laser cutter.
It seems,
Router.
yeah, it just seems like a lot.
It'll build spaceships.
Spaceship building machine.
It
I'd like
realistic.
a spaceship building machine, please, for 500.
1,000?
Shut up a minute.
No more for you. So yeah. Anyways, that's what I know today. Hopefully, you learned something, and next week we'll be back with another exciting episode. So with that, I'm Brandon.
I'm Chad.
Garrett.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSaver.